Hello, so today I'm going to be talking about the fifth learning objective in our notes today, which is the distinguishing between creeping and crawling and describing the developmental process of each. So according to our book, crawling usually appears first and it's usually around the 6 months, but can be as early as the 4th month. We can see that. It can depend on height and weight, as we learned in our lecture. So crawling evolves around the infant gaining control of the muscles of the head, neck, and trunk. It occurs in a prone position, which means the baby is lying on his or her face and belly. That's why our professor calls it belly crawling. And the child would also use homolateral pattern, which means they use the same side of the body for both the hands and the legs. So the process would look something like this. Both right leg and the right hand are extended like in order to reach an object in front of them, raising their head and chest off the floor. On coming back down, the outstretched like arms pull the child back toward their feet, and the result of this like combined effort is a slight sliding movement forward. The legs are usually not the main parts used in these early crawling attempts, but they can be used. On the other hand, creeping is very similar. It evolves from crawling and often develops into a highly efficient form of locomotion of the infant. It happens around the 8 months, so that's why we see it later in life. And as the professor calls it, it's hands and knees crawling, because this is exactly what happens. The child would use his hands or her hands and knees to move. Creeping differs from crawling in that the legs and arms are used in opposition to one another or in a contralateral pattern. So the infant can use the left arm and right leg, or vice versa, the right arm and the left leg. The infant's first attempt at creeping are characterized by deliberate movements and one limb at a time. And so it's just like kind of like walking, but on all fours. So the right hand would like go first, left leg with it, left leg, right leg with it, right hand with it. So yeah, and then as the infant proficiency increases, movements become synchronous and more rapid. And the variation in these forms of moving all depends on sufficient muscle strength in arms and support of the body weight being lifted with abdomen off the ground. In general, the infant would use arms, legs, abdomen, and head in various combinations to make these movements happen. This can also relate kind of to last week, because we can see how one movement can lead to another later in life, since there's some evidence that suggests that infants who had skipped crawling and moved directly to creeping were less efficient in the creeping movements than those who experienced crawling initially. Adolph also concluded that former belly crawlers take larger and faster steps from their very first week on creeping than non-belly crawlers. But also we have to remember that not every kid is the same, and they do not all have to follow the same pattern. So yeah, thank you.